This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. These are 13 stories that we're following today. First, the markets were pointing slightly down most of the day. Right now, they're about flat, and so we'll see how the day ends in terms of the markets. Second, related to that, Bitcoin has dropped to 29,300, down from 30,000 plus over the last few days, and we'll see where Bitcoin continues to level out. Third, the treasuries, the one-year treasury yield is rising slightly and right around 4.83%. The 10 years up to 3.63%. That's giving a greater sense that over the long run, the Fed won't be bringing rates quickly as some people might have hoped. Fourth, Morgan Stanley's profits fell significantly in the first quarter. They dropped 90% of the first quarter to $3 billion from a year ago. And that's basically based on M&A and investment banking activity being quite down. Investment banking revenue dropped 24%, profits dropped 19%. Interesting enough, revenues only dropped a couple percent. And I think for Morgan Stanley and some of the big investment banks, given how bad the banking climate has been, the investment banking climate has been, I think they were largely thrilled that profits dropped only as little as they did, and the revenues only dropped a couple percent. In fact, their CEO, James Gorman, long-term CEO, reflected on this and said, use the Rolling Stones song, you can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need, and to describing that they did okay given the climate, an outstanding reference by him. Fifth, Bed Bath & Beyond stock is up 54% today, but before you do any great cheers for Bed Bath & Beyond, recognize that 54% today is only about 19 cents, and that gives you a sense of how much the mighty have fallen in terms of great retailers like Bed Bath & Beyond. Sixth, it's reported that Meta is preparing new layoffs. That was reported by Bloomberg today. Seventh, Tesla keeps on working to cut prices to increase volume and grow the Tesla franchise. I think at the end of the day, you can't really underestimate Elon Musk. Simply fascinating to watch. Eighth, for the Becker's Healthcare Podcast, what a pleasure yesterday to interview Lexi Kaiser and Paige Twenter. With Paige, we talked at length about the Supreme Court and their rulings potentially on abortion drugs and so forth, and just absolutely fascinating. Finally, ninth, Netflix down 3.4% today. Finding that streaming business tougher and tougher. 10th, Intuitive stock jumped about 13% today. Great earnings, great numbers on procedures. They're knocking it out of the park with their Da Vinci robot system. Their CEO, Gary Guthart, is an incredibly good leader. 11th, Memorial Health, Manav Sivak, they just raised another $30 million in a new funding round with some of the best names in venture capital. So always fascinating to watch what they are doing. Next, Fox settled with Dominion, the voting system company, for $787 million. What a fascinating situation where, Fox had said their voting machines might have been used for fraud and so forth. Dominion said that's completely not true and said that they were lying. It turns out Fox had a pretty good case, and so we ended up with a defamation suit, or that Dominion had a pretty good case, a defamation suit. Ultimately, they settled the case, $787 million. And of course, Fox is well funded, so probably a blip on the radar. But a fascinating issue in terms of journalism and where we've come as a country and some of the negativity and so many different issues that come out of that. Finally, again, thank you to our colleagues at National Medical, Nader Sami, Lisa Rock, Bob Wilhelm, and a lot more, Colin Monastero, as well as our colleagues at VMG Health, Jen Johnson, Greg Kuzman. Some of these people have been so supportive for so long. We're just thankful. That's today's 13 stories we're watching today. Thank you for listening to the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. Also, as a PS, thrilled this week to be ranked extremely highly in the Apple Business News, podcast section. I think won for a little bit this week, which is just phenomenal. If you listen to this all the way through and have a comment on it, please feel free to text me at 773-766-5322. And if you're the first person to listen to this update and send me a text, I'll send you a $50 Amazon gift certificate from Becker Private Equity Business. Thank you for listening.